Hello and welcome to the Buzzerbeater Show, episode 75. My name is David Jones, and first off, this podcast will come online. It's probably the September 11th, so rest in peace to all the people that died on that very, very, very tragic day. And also, all the best to the families that lost people 20 years ago. Yeah. Rest in peace. So, today we have a debate to say. What is the best team of all time? And I don't want to hear anything about the 1986 Celtics, Bill Simmons. He probably doesn't listen to my podcast, but no. We're talking about the 1996 Bulls and the 2017 Warriors, because those are, in my opinion, the two best teams of all time. My opinion. So, the 1996 Bulls had Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Steve Kerr, Bill Cartwright. No, not Bill Cartwright. Bill Cartwright is gone. Whoops. Tony Kukoc. I don't want to name everybody, but pretty much that is like the around the starting lineup. I'm not so sure, but right, Ron Harper was also on the team. No, was it Ron Harper? I think it was Ron Harper, but they won 3 championships together, and nobody had a chance of stopping them. Not the Sonics, not Utah. No. In no way Utah would stop that team. And nobody had a chance of stopping them. But then, there's from the 2017 to maybe 2019 Warriors that won 2 championships together. Actually 3 when you don't count KD, but no. We'll say they won 2 championships together. They had a legitimate chance of winning the third one if KD and Klay hadn't gotten hurt in the finals. And in 2016 they broke the record of the 72 and 10 record that was set by the 1996 Chicago Bulls, and had 73 and 9 wins, which is absolutely crazy if you only lose 9 times in a season. 9 times. And they didn't lose a game in 2018 in the playoffs before they met the Cavs. I mean, they didn't even lose a game against the Cavs. It was close, though. Game 1 was close. If J.R. Smith wasn't such a dumbass, but... And in my opinion, even MJ, the GOAT, could have not stopped in this team from 2017 to 2019. Old heads are like, wait, what? MJ? Hell no. MJ would have beat... No, bro. They had defense. They had scoring. They had fast break offense. They had floor spacing. They had runners. They had pushers. They had everything, bro. They had everything. And they had the greatest shooter of all time, and one of the best scorers of all time, which is KD and Clay. I mean, not Clay. Curry. Yeah, I even would say like Curry's also like up there in the score, but KD, I don't know if he's the greatest scorer of all time, but he's pretty damn close. Like his smooth length and mobility to get to the basket and just shoot it, it looks so fluently. There are not a lot of people in the world that can. I mean, I don't even know anybody in the world who can do that like him. Maybe there is. And the combination with KD at the beginning of 2017, they didn't have the same winning record as the 1996 Bulls because they won more games in the regular season. The Bulls had a average of 0.878, and the 2017 Warriors had an average of 0.871, which isn't that far apart, but I would say the Bulls, in the regular season, were probably a better team because they knew what to do, they were more a stronger team, they already played with each other. But what about the playoffs? I mean, you have to imagine this team, the 2017 Warriors, were so good in place in the playoffs. KD, clutch shooter. Curry, clutch shooter. Clay, clutch shooter. 2016 against OKC. You saw that. Clutch shooter. Draymond, clutch defender. JaVale McGee, clutch bucket getter. All these guys. Quinn Cook, also clutch shooter. I don't know. I think Jordan could have had as much mentality as he wanted, but this amount of scoring, I don't know if he could have stopped that. Even with Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen on his team. I believe the 2017 Warriors are a better team than the 1996 Bulls. And Steve Kerr, the coach, had to handle four major egos. Curry, Clay, KD, and Draymond. Probably the two biggest egos that clashed also on the team, as you saw against the Clippers. He had to average those. Phil Jackson had to maybe average one or two. Rodman, he didn't always do what he was supposed to do. You saw it in 1998, where he just took off with a spike and stuff in the Last Dance documentary. But still, he was on the court. He was still doing what he's supposed to do. He did the dirty work. He didn't ask for anything else, and he just went through with it. Jordan and Pippen, on the other hand, that was a different story. Those guys didn't really clash, but you could see after the documentary, Pippen was pissed because he thought like his thing was not told truthfully and stuff, and Jordan is Michael. I mean, how can you not be Michael Jordan? How can you be Michael Jordan and not have a massive ego? You know what I mean? And you maybe could say, oh yeah, then it would have been less harder work for Phil Jackson because then they could have won against this team if they would have played. But you have to remember one other thing. Although there was so much egos on the Warriors team, Curry wasn't that much of an ego player. The only guy that wasn't really that much of an ego was probably Curry. But Steve Kerr, in my opinion, is probably in the top 5 of coaches of all time. I believe even when even if he had these 3 egos against the 1996 Bulls, he would have pulled through. I don't know what he would have done, but I know he would have pulled through. And you have to remember, compare the 90s to the 2010s. What was a major difference? Handshaking. The defense was way more. It's a different type of physical. Like, in today's game, you have to run more. You have to stay more on your man and prevent him from shooting. That's pretty intense for your legs. But in the 90s, it was more like your upper body, because you had to keep the player in front of you and not go to the basket. And there was still handshaking. So it was a little easier. I'm not comparing them. It was a little easier to keep the man in front of you. That's what I'm saying. I'm not comparing anything, okay? I'm not comparing anything. But from the 3-point shooting, the Warriors, those Warriors probably the best 3-point shooting team of all time. Curry, Clay, KD, maybe even Quinn Cook. All these guys were great shooters. MJ started to become a great shooter after 1991, maybe. Rodman? No. Pippen was more like a mid-range? Not really. Steve Kerr? Yeah, sometimes, but it was more like, back then it was more like a, oh my god, he shot a 3-pointer, and today it's like more like, he shot a 3-pointer. Yep. It's more like, you know what I mean? I'm not hating on the 3-point shooting. It's just, it has gotten a lot. Which is not a bad thing. I'm just saying. That's all. And I don't really care about the regular season. I mean, players today don't really care about the regular season anymore. They just have to get their wins in and see if they get their spot in the playoffs, and then they can just sit out and wait for the playoffs. It's also a reason why you should shorten the regular season, just because it's way too physical on your body. Let it say, yeah. It's all because of all the running, and the on-guard defense is probably easier if the player goes to the basket than if he would have shot in the ball. You know what I mean? Because then you have to stay in his face, and in today's game, he probably some players are going to make that. So it's going to get more frustrating than just him going to the basket. You know what I mean? It's just hard to compare, but I would have say that the 2017 Warriors are better than the 1996 Bulls because of all the things I just said. If you disagree, hop on my podcast. I don't know. Whatever. But, yeah. So this podcast wasn't that long today. But still, I thought it was a good episode, so, yeah. Okay, if you like this podcast, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel, and of course, turn on notifications. And I'll see you all next time. Peace!